Hello, amazing moms. So I've decided to challenge myself once again this year by participating in Vlogmas 2020. Now, last year I managed to post 9 out of the 25 videos, but nevertheless, I accomplished what I set out to do, which was to let you guys in on a little more of my personal life, which I will try to do again over the next 25 days. But today, I have a follow-up video for all of you moms of remote learners. I'm going to share with you my personal bouts with the remote learning platform and share with you a few tips, tricks, and wake-up calls for me as a mother, because I have to admit that I have met my match once again in parenting. The first time being potty training. So this video is for all of my amazing moms of remote and, from the looks of it, soon to be remote learners. Earlier this school year, I received the kids' progress reports, and to my surprise, 2 of my best and brightest kids, fun fact, all of my kids are the best and the brightest, 2 of my best and brightest kids had, for the very first time, progress reports containing mostly D's and F's. So you know I had to investigate this thing to see what was going on, or better yet, what wasn't going on. It turns out that my kids were scoring low for 2 different reasons. The first being that the learning platform that one child was using was constantly experiencing issues where when my child tried to click on the assignment links, the links weren't active. Even the teacher shared that there was nothing that she could do to correct the issue. So here my child was doing all that was required. They were going to class, they were taking the initiative to do all of their work, they were reporting it to their teacher, but sadly, because of technical hiccups beyond anyone's control, their grades were still negatively affected. Now the other child scored low on their report because, to my surprise, they just weren't doing the work. In my investigation, I discovered that they weren't applying themselves at all. And I would be lying if I told you that I myself didn't experience any mom guilt because of this, because I myself am working and in school, and so 3 days out of the week, I'm not at home to really enforce or check up on everything that each child needs to be doing. But guess what, moms? I also realized that there was no room for excuses. My child was spiraling downhill, and as much as I desired my child take schooling more seriously on their own, I had to realize that nonetheless, I am still their parent, and it is my responsibility to not only hold them accountable, but do whatever it takes to ensure that they get and stay on the right track. So on this first day of Vlogmas 2020, I'm going to share with you some changes I made, some tips I've implemented, and some parenting problems of my own that I had to correct in order to help my children improve their school performance while at home. Tip number 1, no matter what time I get home, and no matter how tired I am when I get home, I had to make it a priority to check in with my child's performance every single day. And that oftentimes means not just taking their word for it, but going into their account myself and checking to see if they've done their work. You cannot just assume that even your best and brightest have it all figured out. And sometimes their own pride can have them suffering in silence. Check in every single day to make sure that they are on task, because being home is different and it's more relaxing. Checking in also includes reading those school emails in your inbox, moms. Tip number 2, create a morning routine that is similar to, if not the exact same as, the routine that your child had when school was in. I have to admit that since quarantine, I've allowed my children to sleep at least an hour later than I did when they had to commute to school. So as a wake-up call, pun intended, I had to revert back to our old schedule where they wake up every day at 5 a.m. to prepare for school in the dining room. Tip number 3, similar to tip number 2, create a daily schedule and routine and stick to it. If your experience is anything like mine, where all of your kids have different class and lunch schedules, Try to come up with something that works well for a smooth flow of each day. And whatever daily schedule or routine you come up with, stick to it. Tip number 4, pray. Because prayer always works, duh. Pray not only for your child, but pray for their teachers and ask God to give you the strategies and strength necessary to master this remote learning process. And speaking of prayer, tip number 5, if you don't take remote learning seriously, then your child won't. During my prayer time, I was convicted of my own attitude and all of the negative comments I had made in front of my children about challenges and frustrations surrounding the remote learning process. Even though I knew that this was new territory for us all, the parents, the students, and the teachers, I still didn't express my compassion through the words that I spoke. And children pick up on this and take on that same attitude. So be careful about your approach. Scream in private. Tip number 6, when the teachers have opportunities for you to ask questions, take advantage of them. Remote learning takes initiative not just on the child's part, but on yours as well. Tip number 7, make sure that your child's learning area is clean. As I mentioned earlier, most of my children do their remote learning in the dining room because that's the easiest place for me to check up on them from our security camera while I'm at school and work. Well, the dining room is where we eat as well, and I have to make sure that during school time, the area is and stays clean. Tip number 8, make sure that your child has everything ready for class before they log into class. Them getting up and walking around to go get pencils, paper, and notebooks is a distraction to the teacher, the class, and sometimes to you if you're like me, working from home and kids are constantly coming in to ask you for a pencil. Tip number 9, try to stay out of your child's camera as much as possible. I had this issue earlier on with my kids walking by and peeking into their siblings' Zoom classes when they were on their class break. But not only that, I myself have been an unintentional distraction as well. I had one child whose classmates saw me in the background and they got into a whole class discussion about the length of my hair. And all I was doing was minding my own business. So be careful behind the camera, moms. And tip number 10, remind your child of the importance of their education. With them being out of school, school can appear to be less of a priority. Remind them that school requirements and expectations haven't changed, and try to find a healthy balance of them maintaining the school standards without them becoming overwhelmed or overworked. Because we all still know that this remote learning experience is a hot mess. Well, moms, those are my 10 tips, and I'm sure that you have tips that you can share with us in the comments as well. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow, day 2 of Vlogmas 2020. Remember, moms, you got this. See you tomorrow.